He called me the servant, in the house I built with my own 2 hands. My daughter just watched, then told me to apologize. They thought they had broken me. They thought the old man was finished. They were about to find out that even old wood can burn. My name is Arthur, and I need to tell you how my sanctuary became my prison, and how I burned it all down to set myself free. If you're listening to this, subscribe to the channel, and let me know where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. The cake was white, too white. It sat in the middle of my dining room table, like an iceberg. Blue frosting spelled out, "Happy retirement, Arthur." It didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a funeral. My funeral. The room was quiet. Tension hung heavy, thick and suffocating. 40 years. I spent 40 years at the county clerk's office. It wasn't glamorous. It was steady. It was honest. And now it was over. This party was thrown by my daughter, Clara, and her husband, Mark. The guest list was short. Them, me, and my grandson, Leo. He was 7, lost in a loud tablet game in the corner. The sound of digital explosions was the only noise in the room. We were sitting in the house I built. Every nail, every board, I placed them myself. My wife, Sarah, planted the rose bushes outside. Their sweet smell mixed uneasily with the cheap wine Mark had poured. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a trap waiting to spring. The golden years. Mark swirled the wine in his glass. He was a big man. His suits were always too tight, straining at the seams. He always talked about scaling up his marketing firm. He had a smirk that never quite reached his eyes. "Time to finalize things, Arthur," he said. His voice was smooth, like oil on water. Finalize, like I was a transaction that needed closing. Clara leaned forward. She looked sharp, brittle. Her jewelry glittered under the dining room light, a stark contrast to my faded flannel shirt. She didn't look like the little girl I raised. She looked hungry. "We need to talk about the pension, Dad," she said. "No warmth, just business. Now that you're officially done, we need to know exactly what we're working with." They stared at me, impatient, like vultures waiting for the end. I took a deep breath. I tried to keep my voice steady. The familiar ache in my chest returned. The ache that had been there since Sarah left me. "Well," I began, "it's what I told you before. The county pension is modest. It comes out to about $1,000 a month." I waited for the understanding, the reassurance. I didn't get it. The silence was heavy, judgmental. Then Claire laughed. It wasn't a joyful laugh. It was cold, sharp, like breaking glass. $1,000? She repeated. She looked at Mark as if I had told a bad joke. "Dad, that's nothing. That's less than we spend on dining out in a month. Nothing. My life's work reduced to nothing." But the real blow was still coming. Mark set his glass down. A loud, definitive click. The sound echoed in the silent room. "You won't survive on that money, Arthur," he said. His tone was final. "Not in this economy." He looked me straight in the eye, the smirk widening. "Frankly, it's pathetic." Pathetic. The word hit me like a physical blow. I felt the weight of my grief press down on me. 5 years ago, when Sarah died, I was shattered, lost in a fog of sorrow. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. Clara and Mark had been so supportive then, so comforting. They stepped in. They took control, and I let them. That was my first mistake. They suggested that to protect the house. To ensure my security, I should sign the deed over to them. "It's just a formality, Dad," Clara had assured me, holding my hand. Her touch felt warm then, real. "We'll always take care of you. You won't have to worry about taxes or upkeep." Blinded by grief, desperate for stability, I trusted her. She was my only child. I signed the papers. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I realized right then they hadn't been protecting me. They had been robbing me. "I managed before," I said quietly. I looked down at my hands. Rough, calloused, hands that built this house. "Managing isn't enough," Mark interrupted. His voice was rising now. The mask was slipping, revealing the ugliness underneath. "We have a lifestyle to maintain. We have Leo's future, his private school tuition." He gestured around the room, my room. "We can't carry you, Arthur. We simply cannot afford it." "Carry me." The words tasted like ash. "I live here. I built this place. Clara's voice hardened. She adopted the same cold tone as her husband. The transformation was complete. Correction, Dad. You lived here. Now it's our house. Legally. The trap snapped shut, and we've decided on the terms for you staying. Mark slid a document across the table. Resident agreement. My stomach turned. Here's the deal, he said, pointing with a thick finger. You stay, but things change. Dramatically. He leaned back, satisfied. He was enjoying this. We're letting the cleaning service go, and the landscapers. He will handle all the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, and the yard work. He wasn't finished. The cruelty had layers. You will watch Leo whenever we need you to. Days and nights. You will be, essentially, our live-in help. I stared at the document. The words blurred. Help.
You want me to be your servant?
In my own home. The home I built for Sarah. Don't be dramatic, Dad. Clara sighed. She rolled her eyes. Dismissive. That's just pitching in. It's earning your keep, she added, as if offering a great concession. And you will sign over the remainder of your personal savings account to us, to cover your rent. My savings account. About $50,000. The emergency fund Sarah and I had carefully built. It was everything they thought I had. And if I say no? I asked. My voice trembled slightly. I already knew the answer. I just needed to hear them say it. Mark smiled, that cold, dead smile. Then you leave. Tonight, he shrugged. Casual. Cruel. Serve us and live in the house, or go begging. Those are your choices, Arthur. Choose wisely. They looked at me. A 65-year-old man. Grease still under my nails from fixing the fence yesterday. They saw a burden, a weak old man. No options. No power. No future. They thought that was my only choice. They were wrong, terribly wrong. They didn't know about the investments. The ones I made quietly, meticulously, for 40 years. While I was filing papers during the day, I was reading financial reports at night. They didn't know that Sarah, a brilliant accountant, taught me everything. We lived small, we saved big. We invested when the market was low and held on when everyone else panicked. Our wealth grew silently. Invisibly, they didn't know I owned 6 houses in the city, rented out, managed by a discreet firm, and they certainly didn't know about the trust fund, valued at just over $10 million. I had a plan I started forming ever since I realized their support after Sarah's death wasn't love. It was calculation. A long con to gain control of the house. I looked at the contract. I looked at my daughter. She couldn't meet my gaze now. I looked at Mark, already checking his expensive watch. The time for patience was over. The time for war had begun. Fine, I whispered. The word felt like swallowing glass. I'll stay. I'll sign your agreement. Mark nodded, satisfied. The victory was his, or so he thought. Good choice, Arthur. Very practical. He stood up, looming over me. Now, the guest room is too big for you. We need it for my office. You'll be moving into the small room above the garage. It has a cot and a sink. He paused, looking towards the kitchen. Oh, and Clara is hungry. Go make dinner. The humiliation burned, hot and acidic, but I stood up. I walked into the kitchen. Sarah's kitchen, the place where we laughed, where we dreamed. I started cooking. The game had begun, and I intended to win. The room above the garage smelled of motor oil and dust. It was cramped, unheated. The November chill seeped through the thin walls like a physical presence. My life, 65 years of memories, shoved into a few cardboard boxes. My comfortable bed, the one I shared with Sarah, was gone, replaced by a narrow, sagging cot. This wasn't just about housing. This was about breaking me, erasing me. The next few weeks were a systematic assault on my spirit. I woke at 5 a.m, not by an alarm, by Mark banging on the garage door below me. A summons. Arthur, breakfast. Now. I prepared elaborate breakfasts. Eggs Benedict for Mark, avocado toast for Clara, pancakes shaped like dinosaurs for Leo. I served. They ate. I was furniture. I did the dishes. I mopped the floors. I scrubbed the toilets. My back ached constantly, a deep grinding pain. My knees cracked every time I knelt down. I was 65, but I felt 90. The humiliation was precise, calculated. I was scrubbing the kitchen floor, on my hands and knees. Mark walked in, dressed for a meeting. "You missed a spot, Arthur." He didn't look at me. He pointed at the floor with the toe of his expensive Italian shoe, a shoe that probably cost more than the pension they mocked. He enjoyed the power, the control. I simply nodded, and cleaned it again. I became invisible in my own home. My days were filled with endless errands. Picking up Mark's dry cleaning, walking their designer dog, a poodle mix that snapped at my ankles, waiting for repairmen to install the expensive upgrades they were already planning, upgrades to my house, paid for with money they thought they were saving by enslaving me. But the real cost was much higher. One cold afternoon, I was washing Mark's car in the driveway, a brand new luxury SUV, a celebration of their control. My hands were numb, the cold water stinging my skin. I was exhausted, but the real pain wasn't physical. It was the silence. "Arthur," Mark called from the porch, holding a grocery list. He didn't even bother to put on a coat. The cold didn't bother him. He was insulated by arrogance. "We need these things for dinner tonight. And make sure you get the organic salmon. Clara can taste the difference." I took the list. I wiped my wet hands on my jeans. "I'll need some money," I said. My voice was quiet, humble. Playing the role, Mark scoffed. A sound of pure contempt. "Money? Arthur, you live here for free. You eat our food." He tapped his expensive watch. "Your pension arrived yesterday, didn't it? Use that. It's the least you can do." He expected me to pay for their groceries, after they had already taken my savings. The audacity was breathtaking. The cruelty was bottomless. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him exactly who I was, exactly how much power I truly held. But I remembered the plan. Patience. Endurance. Let them think they have won. Arrogance makes people sloppy. "All right," I said. I took my keys. I drove my old sedan to the store. I bought the organic salmon, the expensive wine. I used the credit card linked to the trust. The black card, the one they knew nothing about. As I was leaving the parking lot, someone called my name. "Arthur? Arthur? Is that you?" I turned. It was Eleanor Vance, Sarah's best friend. A kind woman with sharp eyes and a perpetually worried expression. She hadn't been to the house in months. Clara found her depressing. "Eleanor," I said, forcing a smile. She looked me up and down, the worn-out jeans, the tired eyes, the exhaustion clinging to me like a shroud. "Arthur, dear, how are you?" Her voice was filled with genuine concern. "We haven't seen you," I called, "but Clara said you were resting." She leaned closer. "You look tired. Are they taking care of you?" I wanted to tell her the truth. I wanted to collapse and confess everything, but I couldn't. Not yet. The walls of ears. "I'm fine, Eleanor," I lied, just adjusting to retirement. "Keeping busy." She didn't look convinced. She pressed a piece of paper into my hand. "If you need anything, Arthur." "Anything at all. You call me. Don't worry about Clara." I nodded. I got into my car. I drove away. I felt more alone than ever. But I also knew the world outside my prison still existed. The nights were the hardest. My body ached. The cot offered no comfort. The cold seeped into my bones. But I wasn't idle. I was busy. Planning. Watching. I had a burner phone, hidden inside an old toolbox in the garage. The toolbox I used to build this house. "Robert," I whispered one night. The cold air fogged in front of my face. Robert was my oldest friend, a high-powered estate lawyer. The only person who knew the truth about my finances. He was the cavalry. "Arthur, how are you holding up?" Robert's voice was worried. He hated this plan, but he respected my decision. "It's worse than I thought, Robert," I admitted. "They are cruel. It's not just the money for them, it's the power." I paused. "And they are spending money like water. I'm worried they are leveraging the house. They are destroying everything Sarah and I built." "They are," Robert confirmed. His voice was grim. They took out a massive home equity line of credit almost immediately after you signed the deed over 5 years ago. They've been using your house like an ATM. 5 years. The betrayal started right after Sarah died. And Arthur? Robert paused. It seems they've maxed it out. So that was it. The desperation. The increasing cruelty. They weren't just greedy. They were drowning. And they were panicking. I need you to dig deeper into Mark's business, I said. My voice hardened. There's something off. He talks big. But I see the cracks. He's hiding something big. We're already on it, Arthur, Robert said. And it's messy. Very messy. Robert paused. It seems Mark's scaling up has attracted some attention. We've heard whispers. The SEC is sniffing around. He lowered his voice. And there's a Detective Miller, Financial Crimes Unit. He's been asking questions about Mark's firm. It's only a matter of time before the whole thing collapses. Detective Miller. The walls were closing in on Mark. Faster than I thought. We need proof, Robert, I said. Something concrete, something undeniable. We're working on it, Robert assured me. Just stick to the script, Arthur. We need them to underestimate you. Underestimate me. That was their biggest mistake, and it would be their last. A few days later, I was downtown picking up Mark's dry cleaning. The streets were crowded. I was waiting for the light to change, when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned. A young woman stood there. Early 30s, dark hair, nervous energy, radiating off her. She kept glancing over her shoulder. Are you Arthur? Claire's father? She whispered. I nodded, confused. Yes. Who are you? My name is Maria Sanchez, she said. Her voice rushed. I used to work for Mark, his marketing firm. She looked terrified. I need to talk to you. He's a monster. He ruined my life, and I think he's going to ruin yours. We went to a small coffee shop. Maria sat with her back to the wall. Her hands trembled as she stirred her coffee. I was his accountant, she explained. For 3 years. At first it was great. Big promises. Big bonuses. Her eyes darkened. Then I noticed the irregularities. Money coming in, but no real clients. Expenses that didn't make sense. It was all smoke and mirrors. I started asking questions, Maria continued. I found the second set of books. The real books. She looked at me, her eyes pleading for understanding. It's all fake, Arthur. The firm is a front. He's stealing money from investors. A classic Ponzi scheme. And it's about to collapse. When I confronted him, Maria whispered, tears welling in her eyes. He fired me. He threatened me. He said he would destroy my career if I told anyone. He blacklisted me. She pulled a flash drive from her purse, slid it across the table. It was small, silver, loaded with destruction. I made copies of everything before I left. The fake accounts, the wire transfers, the investor lists. It's all here. Proof. Concrete. Undeniable proof. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I heard he's falling apart, Maria said. And I saw you today. You looked trapped. Just like I was. She stood up, leaving her coffee untouched. Be careful, Arthur. He's desperate. And desperate men do dangerous things. I went back to the house. The flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. The truth was heavier than I imagined. I needed to get this to Robert, but first I had another task. Clara ordered me to clean out the attic. It's full of your old junk, Dad, she said dismissively. We need the space for our new exercise equipment. The Peloton is arriving on Friday. The attic was dusty, filled with ghosts, boxes of Sarah's clothes, old photo albums, a graveyard of the life we had built together. I moved a heavy trunk. A stack of leather-bound books fell over. They were Sarah's journals. My breath caught. I sat down on the dusty floor. I opened one. The date was 10 years ago, shortly after Clara had met Mark. Sarah's handwriting. Elegant. Precise. I worry about Clara, she had written. This new man, Mark, he is charming. Yes, but there is a hardness to him. A coldness in his eyes. She saw it. Even then, I turned the page, my hands trembling. He talks about money constantly. He looks at our home, not with appreciation, but with calculation. I tried to talk to Clara, but she says I'm being paranoid. The last line hit me like a punch to the gut. It was prophetic. I fear he will consume her kindness, and I fear what he will do to Arthur when I am gone. Tears streamed down my face. My Sarah. She always saw the truth. She knew she'd tried to warn me, and I hadn't listened. I was too blind to see the viper I had invited into my home. I took the journals back to my room. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore, I was fighting for her memory. I was fighting for the life she believed in. They wouldn't erase her too. If this story is touching your heart, or you believe that justice must be served, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. It helps our channel grow and bring more stories like this to light. It helps me know I'm not alone in this fight. The cruelty became more public, more casual. Clara and Mark started entertaining guests, showing off the house, parading their wealth, my wealth. I was forced to serve drinks, dressed in a white shirt and black pants they had bought for me. A uniform, the servant's uniform. Arthur, more wine for Mr. Johnson, Clara called out, her voice loud, imperious, like she was addressing a dog. Mr. Johnson, our neighbor, looked at me with pity. Arthur, how are you enjoying retirement? He asked. Before I could answer, Mark clapped me hard on the back. The force of it nearly made me spill the wine. It was intentional, a show of dominance. Oh, Arthur is loving it, Mark boomed, his voice fake and hearty. He's keeping busy, aren't you? We're taking good care of him. He smiled. That dead smile. I just nodded, silent. Unzealoted, silent, invisible. Later, Clara confronted me. In the kitchen, I was scrubbing the expensive copper pans they insisted on using. They were already tarnished. Dad, she said, her voice. Please don't linger when we have company. She wrinkled her nose. You're making the guests uncomfortable. Frankly, you embarrass us. You look so shabby. Shabby. I retreated to the kitchen. The sound of their laughter echoed behind me. They were living high, but the foundation was crumbling, and they were too arrogant to see it. Mark was always on the phone now, his voice low, urgent. Pacing the driveway late at night, I watched him from my window above the garage. A caged animal. I need an extension. The payment is coming. I swear, just give me a few more days. The pressure was mounting, and Mark was about to break. One evening, the pressure arrived at the front door. I was washing dishes when I heard the doorbell ring, followed by loud, aggressive banging. Mark, open the door. I know you're in there. The voice was rough, threatening. I walked into the hallway. Mark was standing at the door, his face pale. Claire was behind him, trembling. Mark opened the door. A large man stood on the porch, expensive suit, hard eyes. He looked dangerous. He wasn't a banker. Henderson, Mark stammered. I told you I need a few more days. The transfer is delayed. Mr. Henderson pushed past Mark, walking into the house as if he owned it. He looked around, appraising the furniture, the art. Time's up, Mark, Henderson said. His voice was low, menacing. You owe me a lot of money, and I don't like waiting. He was a loan shark, the worst kind. The market is volatile, Mark pleaded, sweating profusely. My investors are getting nervous. I just need time to liquidate some assets. He didn't know. I just need time to liquidate some assets. Henderson laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. Liquidate? You're drowning, Mark. Everyone knows your firm is a joke. A Ponzi scheme. I don't care about your investors. I care about my money. Henderson stepped closer to Mark, his face inches from Mark's. I want my money by Friday, he growled, or I start taking things, starting with this house. And maybe your fingers. He glanced at Clara, who gasped in terror. Nice place you got here, Henderson said. He turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. The whole house rattled. The silence that followed was terrifying. Mark was shaking. Clara was sobbing. They were in deeper than I realized. The financial ruin was just the beginning. They were in danger, and they were too proud, too arrogant to admit how bad it was. One afternoon, I sought refuge in my workshop, my sanctuary. I loved carving wood, a way to focus my mind, to create something beautiful out of the chaos. I was carving a small wooden bird for Leo. He was the only bright spot in my life. The only reason I hadn't burned this house down already. I finished the bird, the small sparrow, delicate wings. I sanded it smooth. It felt warm in my hand. A piece of hope. I went to give it to him. He was playing in the living room. "Leo, look what I made for you," I said, holding out the bird. Leo's eyes lit up. Genuine joy. "Grandpa, it's beautiful. Can I paint it?" Before he could take it, Mark walked in. He looked furious. His face was red. His fists clenched. He had been drinking. I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "What is that?" he demanded, pointing at the bird as if it were something disgusting. "It's a toy for Leo," I said. My voice was tight, protective. Mark snatched the bird from my hand. He looked at it with disgust. "This cheap junk," he sneered. "We don't want this garbage in the house. We don't need homemade clutter." He walked over to the fireplace. A fire was blazing. He didn't hesitate. He threw the bird into the flames. I watched, frozen, as the delicate wooden wings caught fire, turned to ash. The smell of burning wood filled the air. Leo started crying instantly, a heartbroken wail. "My bird! Grandpa's bird! Stop crying!" Mark snapped at him, his voice like a whip. "Go to your room, now." Leo fled, sobbing. I stood there, silent. The cruelty was breathtaking. It wasn't just about dominance. It was about destroying anything that brought me joy, anything that made me human. That night, something inside me shifted. The patience evaporated. The endurance shattered. They hadn't just attacked me. They had hurt Leo. They had destroyed a symbol of love. And that I could not forgive. The time for waiting was over. That night, I met Robert. I gave him the flash drive from Maria Sanchez. His voice was urgent when he called later. Triumphant. "Arthur, we have everything," he said. "This flash drive is gold. It confirms everything Detective Miller suspected. Mark is finished. We have him on wire fraud, embezzlement, you name it." I sat up on the cot, my heart pounding. The cold forgotten. Adrenaline surged through me. "And the house?" I asked. "The final, devastating piece of the puzzle. It's worse than we thought," Robert confirmed. "They haven't just maxed out the home equity line. They defaulted on the payments months ago, while they were buying Pelotons and SUVs. They've been hiding the notices," Robert continued. "The bank has started foreclosure proceedings." He paused. "Arthur, the house is scheduled for auction next week." They were about to lose everything, including the home they had stolen from me. The irony was almost too much. They stole it, bled it dry, and now they were losing it. "Robert," I said, a plan forming rapidly in my mind, a beautiful, devastating plan. "I want you to contact the bank, the one holding the mortgage on my house." "What are you thinking, Arthur?" Robert asked, curious. "I'm thinking," I said, a cold resolve settling over me. "It's time to buy back my home, and I want to buy it cheap." The next day, the tension in the house was unbearable. A certified letter arrived, taped to the front door, a scarlet letter, the final notice. I was cleaning the living room. I saw Clara open it. Her face turned pale, her hands shaking. The expensive manicure suddenly looked ridiculous. The mask shattered completely. "Mark!" she screamed, a hysterical shriek that echoed through the house. It was music to my ears. "The bank! They're auctioning the house?" Next Tuesday, Mark came running down the stairs, his face wild with panic. He grabbed the letter, his eyes bulging. "No, no, no. I told them I needed more time. I told them the payment was on the way. They can't do this." They spent the day fighting, screaming at each other. The facade of their perfect life demolished. The blame game was brutal. "This is your fault?" Clara shrieked. "Your lies? You ruined us. My fault?" Mark retorted, his voice booming with rage. "You spent the money just as fast as I made it. You wanted the lifestyle, Clara. You demanded it. They seemed to forget I was there." I continued cleaning, a silent witness to their downfall. The servant, watching the masters destroy themselves. Later that evening, Clara came into the kitchen. I was making dinner, the organic salmon. She looked exhausted, her eyes red and swollen. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a desperate, pleading fear. "Dad," she said, her voice trembling. It was the first time she had called me Dad with any hint of vulnerability in months. "We need money, fast, or we lose everything. Please, Dad, help us." I looked at her, my heart aching for the little girl she used to be. But that girl was gone, consumed by greed. "I don't have any money," I said quietly, my voice steady, cold. I added the knife twist. "I couldn't help myself. You took my savings. My pension is pathetic, remember. There must be something else," she insisted. "What about Mom's jewelry, the antique pieces?" "Please," I stiffened. "Sarah's jewelry. I sold most of it after she died." I lied smoothly to pay for the funeral. "What about her wedding ring?" Mark asked, walking into the kitchen. He looked haggard, his eyes bloodshot, the desperation radiating off him like heat. He looked dangerous. "The diamond one, the big one, it must be worth tens of thousands." "We need it, Arthur. Sarah's ring hidden in a safe deposit box, along with the deeds to the 6 other houses." "I don't have it," I said. Mark slammed his fist on the counter. The plates rattled. The sound was explosive. "Don't lie to me, old man," he roared. "We are desperate. If you have that ring, you will give it to us. Now!" He grabbed me by the shirt, his face inches from mine. I could smell the fear on him. Sour and acidic, his eyes were wild. "I told you," I said, my voice calm, unwavering. I didn't flinch. I didn't break eye contact. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. "I don't have it." Mark shoved me away, disgusted. "You are useless," he spat. "Absolutely useless." They stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me alone in the silence. It was time. The final act. I picked up my burner phone. I dialed Robert. "Robert," I said, "did you secure the mortgage?" "We did," Robert replied, his voice smooth and satisfied. The bank was very eager to get this bad loan off their books. "We bought it at a significant discount. It's done, Arthur." He paused. "The house is yours again, officially." "Good," I said. "Set up the meeting for tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, at the house, and bring everything." "Are you ready, Arthur?" Robert asked. I looked around the kitchen, Sarah's kitchen. "I'm ready." The next morning, I told Clara and Mark we needed a family meeting. I told them I had found a potential solution to their financial problems, a way to save the house. They were desperate. They agreed to meet in the dining room, the same room where they had called me pathetic. The symmetry was beautiful. At exactly 10, Robert arrived. Impeccable suit, leather briefcase. He looked powerful, authoritative. He looked like the executioner. Clara and Mark looked surprised, confused. They looked at Robert, then at me. I was still wearing my old jeans and the faded flannel shirt, the uniform of the shabby old man. One last time. "Who is this?" Clara demanded, her tone sharp, brittle. "This is Robert," I said. I sat down at the head of the table. My chair, my table, my house. "My lawyer? Your lawyer?" Mark scoffed, the arrogance returning. "What do you need a lawyer for? Did you find the ring?" "Please sit down," Robert said, his voice calm, authoritative. Clara and Mark sat down, exchanging nervous glances. "We don't have time for this," Mark said impatiently. He tapped his expensive watch, a watch that would soon be repossessed. "We are about to lose this house. If you have something to say, say it." "Oh, we have plenty to say," Robert replied. He opened his briefcase. The execution was about to begin. "First, let's discuss Arthur's financial situation," Robert began. His tone was clinical, precise. "You were under the impression that Arthur's only income was his $1,000 monthly pension." Clara nodded impatiently. "Yes, we know. It's pathetic. Get to the point." Robert smiled thinly. "Well, you were mistaken. Arthur has been a very savvy investor over the last 40 years. He and his late wife, Sarah, established a trust fund." He slid a document across the table, a detailed financial statement. "The current value of the trust," Robert said. savoring the moment, is just over $10 million. The silence that followed was absolute. Clara and Mark stared at the document, their mouths open, their faces frozen in shock. The blood drained from their faces. They looked like corpses. 10 million? Clara whispered. Her voice choked. That's impossible. He was a clerk. A very careful clerk, Robert corrected. Furthermore, Arthur owns several properties in the city. He slid another document across the table. Deeds, addresses. 6 houses, to be precise. All paid off, all rented out. Mark grabbed the documents, his hands trembling. He couldn't process the information. It was too much. This is a joke, he muttered, his voice shaking. This has to be a joke. I assure you, it is not, Robert said. Clara turned to me, her eyes wide, a mixture of shock, greed, and sudden, horrifying realization. The greed came first. Dad, you had all this money? Then the anger, the accusation. And you let us struggle? You let us worry? You let us face ruin? The audacity. Even now, it was staggering. They still believed they were the victims. I let you treat me like a servant, I said, my voice low and steady, the rage I had suppressed for weeks boiling over. I let you mock me, humiliate me, and steal from me. I leaned forward. I wanted to see how far you would go. I wanted to see if there was any shred of decency left in you. I found my answer. There was nothing left. But we're family, Clara stammered. The tears starting to fall. Fake tears. Manipulative tears. You should have helped us. Family doesn't steal, I said, my voice cracking with emotion. The grief for the daughter I lost overwhelming me. Family doesn't betray. I thought of the small wooden bird burning in the fireplace. Family doesn't throw a lovingly crafted gift into the fire. Mark suddenly stood up, his chair scraping loudly on the floor. His eyes were blazing, the greed overcoming the shock. He still thought he could negotiate. Fine, he shouted. You made your point, old man. You're rich. You played us. He pointed a shaking finger at me. Now you're going to help us. You're going to pay off our debts and save this house. You owe us that much. Oh, you, I laughed. A cold, bitter sound. I owe you nothing. Oh, the house, Robert interrupted. His voice cold. That brings us to the final piece of business. He pulled out one last document, the mortgage agreement. As you know, Robert said, you defaulted on your mortgage payments. The bank initiated foreclosure proceedings. Yes, we know that, Mark shouted. Fix it. What you don't know, Robert continued, is that the bank sold the mortgage yesterday. Mark froze. He knew what was coming. He finally understood. Sold it? To whom? His voice was barely a whisper. I leaned forward, meeting Mark's eyes, letting him see the steel beneath the worn flannel, the power beneath the facade of the weak old man. To me, I said. Mark stumbled back, grasping the edge of the table, his world collapsing around him, the realization hitting him like a freight train. I bought the mortgage on this house, I continued, my voice calm, final. I am now the lender, and you are 6 months behind on your payments. I delivered the final blow. I am calling in the loan. Immediately, Clara burst into hysterical sobs. Real sobs this time. Sobs of fear, sobs of loss. Dad, please, don't do this. This is our home. Leo's home. She tried to use Leo as a shield. Despicable. No, Clara, I said, my voice firm, the grief finally receding. Replaced by a cold clarity, this is my home. The home I built with Sarah. The home you turned into a prison for me. I stood up. I walked over to the window, looking out at Sarah's rose bushes. They needed pruning. I would do that tomorrow. You gave me a choice, I said, turning back to them. Serve you or go begging. No, it's my turn. I handed them an eviction notice. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises, I said. If you are not gone by tomorrow morning, I will have the sheriff remove you. Mark lunged at me, his face contorted with rage. A cornered animal. You can't do this. You miserable old... Robert stepped between us. I suggest you calm down, Mr. Evans, unless you want to add assault charges to your already extensive list of legal problems. Robert handed Mark another envelope, thick, ominous. By the way, Robert added, Detective Miller and the SEC are aware of your Ponzi scheme. Thanks to the evidence provided by Ms. Sanchez, they have frozen your assets. I expect they will be in touch shortly. Mark stumbled back, defeated. The fight drained out of him completely. He looked at the documents, at Robert, at me. He finally realized the magnitude of his downfall. He was ruined, bankrupt, exposed, and soon he would be in prison. Clara fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Dad, please, I'm your daughter. Don't leave us with nothing. What about Leo? Don't punish him. Leo, I said, my voice softening slightly, the only innocent victim in this whole sordid affair. Our ambiguity is the only one I care about. I have set up a trust fund for him, I continued. He will be taken care of. His education, his future, everything will be provided for. Robert and I will be seeking full custody. I looked at my daughter, the child I had loved, the woman who had betrayed me so completely. But you, I said, my voice cold as ice, you will never touch a penny of it. It's over, Clara. You made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences. The next morning, the house was quiet. I stood in the driveway, a cup of coffee in my hand. The steam rising in the cold morning air. It was the best cup of coffee I had ever tasted. I watched as Clara and Mark loaded their expensive cars, the cars that would soon be repossessed. They carried whatever they could fit. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry. Mark didn't say a word. He looked broken, his arrogance replaced by hollow emptiness. He climbed into his SUV. He drove away without a backward glance, a coward to the end. Clara walked up to me, her eyes swollen from crying. Leo was holding her hand, looking confused, scared. My heart ached for him. This transition would be hard, but it was necessary. I hate you, she whispered. Her voice choked with emotion. You manipulated us. You destroyed our lives. She still didn't get it. She never would. She spat the last words at me. I hope you die alone in this big empty house. She turned and walked away, pulling Leo with her. He looked back at me, his small face etched with sadness. I love you, Leo, I called out. He nodded slightly. I watched them drive away. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I walked back into the house. My house. It was peaceful. The silence was no longer heavy with resentment, but filled with a quiet sense of liberation. The air felt cleaner, lighter. The prison had become a sanctuary again. Robert came later that afternoon. We sat in the living room, drinking coffee. It's done, he said. They are gone. The house is officially yours again. Free and clear. He paused. Mark was arrested this afternoon. Detective Miller caught him trying to flee the country. Maria Sanchez is cooperating with the SEC. And Clara? I asked. She's complicit, Robert said. She knew about the fraud. She benefited from it. She might avoid jail time if she cooperates. But she's ruined. The custody battle for Leo will be tough, but we have a strong case. Just cold, hard justice. Thank you, Robert, I said. For everything. What now, Arthur? He asked. I thought about Sarah. I thought about the 40 years we spent saving, planning. Now, I said, we set up the scholarship fund in Sarah's name for children who want to study accounting, who have dreams but no means. Robert smiled, a genuine, warm smile. Sarah would have loved that. I walked over to the fireplace. It was cold now, the ashes swept clean. I reached into the grate. I pulled out the charred remains of the wooden bird I had carved for Leo. It was blackened, broken, but still recognizable. I held it in my hand, the rough texture a reminder of the cruelty I had endured, but also of the love I still had for my grandson. I would fix the bird. I would make it whole again, just like I had made my life whole again. I looked around the house, my home. It was empty, yes, but it was filled with memories of Sarah, of the life we had built together. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. I was 65 years old. My golden years had finally begun. And as I sat there, I realized that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in freedom, in dignity, and in the quiet peace of knowing that I had survived. I had endured. I had fought. And I had won. Thanks for listening. Please rate this story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot because your time matters.